A commercial jet does not have a key. You could walk right up to a parked 737, climb into the cockpit, sit down, and it still would not be yours to fly. An airliner worth $50 million is one of the hardest things on Earth to take back. And the lock that stops you was never on the door. It's on paper. Turning it back into a legal aircraft is the hard part. This is the strange world of the people who take airliners back, and the paperwork that defeats them. Here's something most passengers never realize. The plane you flew on last month probably wasn't owned by the airline whose logo was painted on the tail. More than half the world's commercial aircraft are leased, rented from finance companies you've never heard of, who own the metal and collect a monthly check. It's a clean arrangement right up until the airline stops paying. When that happens, the owner wants their multi-million-dollar machine back. But it might be parked at an airport 2 continents away, in a country whose government has no interest in helping. So a small, secretive profession exists to go and get it. They fly in, often at night, start the engines, and take the aircraft. The engineering of how they do it is clever. The economics of why it's so hard are stranger still, and the two are tangled together in a way almost nobody talks about. Start with the machine itself. An airliner has no key, because it was never designed to be stolen by a stranger. It was designed to be flown by trained crews who already have permission. To start a modern jet, you need battery or ground power, knowledge of the systems, and a pilot rated on that exact type. The repossession firms keep lists of contract pilots qualified on everything from small turboprops to wide-body jets, so physically, the plane can be flown out. But flying it out and keeping it are two completely different things. It is not only the metal that matters. The real value of an airliner is in a stack of documents called the logbooks. So who actually does this? It is a tiny profession, a handful of specialists. The banks and leasing firms call when an aircraft has to disappear quietly. The most famous is an American named Nick Popovich, whose firm has reclaimed more than 1,600 aircraft and helicopters over the decades. His teams work fast. They land a company plane beside the target, check its condition, and move before anyone can react. In one extraordinary job, after a flight training company collapsed, his crew recovered more than 240 helicopters using around 125 flatbed trucks in roughly 24 hours. They operate in what the trade calls self-help territory, places where the law lets an owner take back their own property without a sheriff present, as long as they do not break the peace. That is why so many repossessions happen at night, on quiet ramps, engines turning before sunrise. It looks like a heist. Legally, it is the opposite. It is the owner collecting what is theirs. Now, why does any of this happen in the first place? It comes down to how the money works. Airlines are cash-hungry businesses with painfully thin margins, and a new jet can cost tens of millions of dollars. So instead of buying, most airlines rent. Leasing lets them fly a modern fleet without sinking their cash into metal. Sale and lease back deals go further. An airline sells a plane it already owns to a finance company, then leases it straight back, turning an aircraft into instant cash while still flying it every day. The companies on the other side of these deals own enormous fleets. The global leasing industry sits on portfolios worth up to $300 billion. Every plane is an asset on a balance sheet. And an asset that stops paying is a problem somebody has to solve, fast. But here is where the engineering quietly takes over. Every airliner carries a complete paper history, separate logbooks for the airframe, the engines, and even individual life-limited parts. They record every inspection, every repair, every service bulletin from the manufacturer, and every airworthiness directive the aircraft has had to comply with. This is not bureaucracy for its own sake. It is the legal proof that the aircraft is safe to fly. Think of it like a car's full service history, except without it, the car is legally undrivable. No regulator will let it return to normal passenger service until its airworthiness can be proven. And here's the trap. If the logbooks go missing, locked in an office, withheld by an angry airline, or simply never handed over, the aircraft may be impossible to operate commercially until its airworthiness is rebuilt from scratch. Missing paperwork can cut a plane's resale value by 20 to 50%, so a repo crew can fly the jet to safety on a special permit and still be left holding a machine they cannot legally lease to anyone. This is where law and money collide head-on. To make leasing safer across borders, dozens of countries signed up to something called the Cape Town Convention. One tool under that system is a special authorization, which lawyers call IDERA, that is supposed to give the owner a fast path to cancel a plane's registration and fly it out of the country without years stuck in court. On paper, it is elegant. In practice, it depends entirely on local cooperation. The aircraft sits on sovereign soil, it needs the local aviation authority to deregister it and customs to let it leave. If that government drags its feet, the world's best legal tool is just words on a page. When India's Kingfisher Airlines collapsed, its financier had every legal right to take its planes back, and the country's aviation regulator initially refused to deregister them, forcing the case into court. The planes did not move. And then in 2022, the whole system met something it had never faced before. For decades, the repo business worked because eventually the metal could always be moved. A determined crew, the right paperwork, a cooperative airport, and the jet went home. The entire $300 billion industry rested on one quiet assumption, that if an airline stopped paying, you could always somehow get the plane out. Then a single government decided the planes weren't leaving. That assumption held for decades. And then Russia broke it. In early 2022, after the invasion of Ukraine, Western governments ordered leasing companies to cancel every contract with Russian airlines and take their planes back. The problem was the scale. More than 400 leased jets, worth close to $10 billion, were sitting inside Russia. These weren't planes on a quiet ramp in Florida. They were the backbone of an entire country's air travel. And on the 14th of March, 2022, Russia's president signed a law allowing Russian airlines to simply keep the foreign planes and fly them at home. Even the most experienced recovery specialists could do nothing. There was no quiet ramp to slip onto, no paperwork that mattered. The aircraft were behind a border that would not open. So the fight moved off the runway and into the courts. The leasing giant AerCap took a charge of $2.7 billion on its stranded fleet, then spent years suing insurers, recovering over $1 billion in settlements while chasing billions more. Another lessor saw an early settlement of around $700 million eventually grow past $1.4 billion. The dispute became so enormous that Ireland had to construct a special courtroom because no existing room could hold all the lawyers. The biggest aircraft repossession in history wasn't won with engines and pilots. It was fought on paper for years, and most of the planes never came home. So the real story of taking planes back isn't the midnight flight or the started engines. That part is almost easy. The hard part is everything the engineering demands afterwards: the logbooks, the airworthiness, the deregistration, the cooperation of a country that may not want to give it. A modern airliner is one of the most valuable machines ever built, but its value doesn't live only in its wings and engines. It lives in whether the right people in the right country will sign the right documents. That's the quiet lesson underneath a $300 billion industry. You never truly own a leased jet you can't legally remove. The metal is only worth something if the paperwork lets it fly. So next time you board a plane, remember, the airline on the tail might just be renting it. Somewhere, a finance company owns your seat, and a small group of people stand ready the moment the payments stop to come and take it back.